What if the exercise that actually prevents falls has nothing to do with strength, and everything to do with something your doctor has probably never mentioned in an appointment? And what if the balance exercises you've already tried, the ones in the pamphlets, the ones your physical therapist showed you once and never followed up on, are only addressing half of the problem, while the more important half goes completely ignored, quietly undoing all that effort? Today, I'm going to show you the one simple movement that does more to prevent falls after 70 than anything else I've found in my career, why it works on a part of your nervous system nobody explains to you, and exactly how to do it correctly starting tonight. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you one small change to the way you walk that surprises almost every patient I share it with. It takes no equipment, no gym, and about 90 seconds a day, and most people are doing the opposite of it without realizing it. I know exactly how this feels. You've become more careful. You hold the railing now. You watch the ground more than you used to. Maybe you've had a close call, a stumble that shook you more than it should have. Or maybe someone you love has already fallen, and you're terrified of becoming the next story. You've tried to stay active. You walk when you can. You've maybe even done a few of the balance exercises someone handed you once, in a hospital waiting room or a well-meaning pamphlet, and then quietly stopped when nothing seemed to change. And still, that quiet fear sits in the back of your mind every time you stand up too quickly or step onto an uneven sidewalk. I want you to hear this clearly. This isn't about age, and it isn't about willpower. The real problem is that almost nobody has explained what's actually happening inside your body as you get older, and so almost nobody has been practicing the one thing that actually protects them. My name is Dr. Harold Simmons. I've spent over 20 years working specifically with adults over 60 on mobility, balance, and fall prevention, first in hospital rehabilitation units, and now almost entirely with patients living independently at home. I've watched falls take away people's confidence and their independence faster than almost any other single event in a person's later years. And I've made it my mission to give you real evidence-based information, not vague reassurances, so you can make smarter decisions about your own safety and mobility, starting today. Before we go any further, take 2 seconds and subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. It really does take 2 seconds. I ask because what I'm about to explain could change your balance, your confidence walking around your own home, and your independence starting as soon as tomorrow. So please, stay with me until the end. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your body. Because once you understand this, the exercise I'm about to show you will make complete sense, instead of feeling like just another thing on a list. Think of your balance system like an electrical cable running between 3 points: your eyes, your inner ear, and the nerve endings in the soles of your feet and joints. Together, these 3 send a constant stream of signals to your brain, telling it exactly where your body is in space, moment to moment, so it can make tiny automatic corrections before you ever notice you're wobbling. When you're young, this cable carries a strong, fast signal. But as we age, the nerve endings in your feet, the sensors that tell your brain exactly how your foot is meeting the ground, naturally become less sensitive. It's called proprioception, and it's the sense most people have never even heard of, even though it may be the single most important sense for staying upright. When that signal weakens, your brain gets a delayed, blurry picture of where your feet are, and by the time it reacts, you've already lost your balance instead of catching it early. Researchers at Harvard Medical School's Division on Aging have studied this extensively, and one of their clearest findings is that most fall prevention programs focus almost entirely on leg strength, while proprioception, the sense of where your feet and joints are, is barely addressed at all, despite being one of the strongest predictors of fall risk in adults over 70. Strength matters, but strength alone doesn't fix a delayed signal. Think about it this way. You could have the strongest legs in the world, but if the message telling your brain that you're starting to tip doesn't arrive until half a second too late, that strength never gets the chance to react in time. It's the timing and clarity of the signal that determines whether your body catches a stumble early or turns it into a fall. And here is what no one has ever told you. You can retrain this sense specifically, deliberately, in your own home, in less time than it takes to brush your teeth, and the improvement often shows up within a couple of weeks. This isn't about becoming an athlete again. It's about waking up a communication system inside your body that has simply gone quiet from years of soft shoes, constant hand-holding on furniture, and sitting more than moving. Let me tell you about Eleanor. Eleanor was 68 years old when her daughter first brought her into my office, practically pulling her through the door. Eleanor sat down, arms crossed, and before I could even ask my first question, she said, "I don't need to be here. I've just gotten a little clumsy, that's all." Her daughter gently corrected her. This was the third fall in 4 months, the last one bad enough that Eleanor had bruised her hip and spent 2 days too afraid to walk to her own mailbox. There was a heaviness in the room when her daughter said that, the kind that comes from watching someone you love slowly shrink their own world out of fear. Eleanor's routine, it turned out, was the routine of someone quietly avoiding the problem rather than addressing it. She had stopped walking outside altogether. She sat most of the day, telling herself she was simply resting more, the way people do at her age. She wore soft, cushioned slippers around the house because they felt comfortable, never realizing that the thick, soft sole was actually muting the very foot signals her brain needed to stay balanced. She held onto furniture constantly, which felt safer, but was training her brain to rely on her hands instead of her feet, reinforcing the exact weakness she was trying to protect herself from. When I watched her stand from a chair and walk a few steps, I understood immediately. Her strength wasn't the primary issue. Her feet had essentially gone quiet. Her brain wasn't getting clear information about the ground beneath her, so it was reacting late, every single time, correcting a stumble only after it had already begun rather than catching it before it started. We didn't start with a gym program. We started with one simple daily exercise to wake her feet back up, which I'll walk you through in a moment, along with a change to her footwear at home. Within 3 weeks, Eleanor's single-leg balance time, how long she could stand on one foot without holding on, had gone from under 2 seconds to nearly 15. Within 8 weeks, she had walked to her mailbox and back alone for the first time in months. At her final follow-up, she looked at me and said, "I thought I was just getting old." Turns out my feet had just stopped talking to my brain, and nobody ever told me you could teach them to talk again. Now let me explain exactly how to do this correctly, step by step, so you can start tonight. The first thing you need to do is what I call the single-leg clock reach, and it directly retrains that foot-to-brain signal we just talked about. Stand near a sturdy countertop or the back of a heavy chair, close enough to catch yourself, but without holding on unless you need to. Lift one foot slightly off the ground. With your standing leg, imagine you're standing in the center of a clock face on the floor. Slowly reach your lifted foot's toes out to touch the 12, then back to center, then out to the 3, back to center, then to the 6, back to center. Do this for 30 seconds on one leg, then switch. That's the entire exercise, 90 seconds total, once a day. The slow, controlled reaching forces the nerve endings in your standing foot to fire constantly as your center of gravity shifts, which is exactly the kind of repeated signal that rebuilds a dulled proprioceptive sense over time. Many patients notice a difference within the first week or two, though the true lasting improvement tends to show up closer to the 4 to 6 week mark. So consistency matters more than intensity here. The second thing is to change your indoor footwear, and this surprises almost everyone. Thick, cushioned slippers feel comfortable, but that padding is muffling the very signal your feet need to send to your brain. Choose a thin-soled, firm shoe or slipper for indoor use. Or better yet, go barefoot or in thin socks with grip on clean, dry, safe flooring. This alone can meaningfully improve how quickly your brain receives information about the surface beneath you. If you're worried about cold feet or comfort, look specifically for slippers marketed as minimalist or barefoot style, which combine a thin, flexible sole with enough warmth to stay comfortable. The third thing, and here is something very few people know, practice standing up from a chair without using your hands, once every time you sit down throughout the day. This isn't just a leg strength exercise. It forces your balance system to make micro-adjustments through a full range of motion, from seated to standing, which is one of the most common positions falls actually happen in. If you can't do it without hands yet, use just your fingertips lightly on the armrest, not your full palm, and reduce that assistance gradually over a few weeks. Track it loosely in your head. Most patients move from needing a full hand to fingertips only to no hands at all, over roughly a month of consistent practice. And the fourth thing, walk for 10 minutes daily on a slightly varied surface if you can safely do so. Grass, a gravel path, or even a thick rug at home, rather than only flat, even tile or pavement. Varied surfaces force your feet and ankles to make constant tiny corrections, which is exactly the kind of stimulation that keeps proprioception sharp. Always do this somewhere familiar and safe, with something to hold on to nearby if needed, especially when you're just starting out, and increase the difficulty of the surface only once the easier version feels completely comfortable. Now let's talk about the three mistakes I see constantly, because avoiding these matters just as much as doing the exercise itself. The first mistake is believing that avoiding activity keeps you safer. People stop walking outside, stop climbing stairs, stop doing anything that feels remotely risky, because it seems like the cautious thing to do. What they don't realize is that this avoidance accelerates the very decline they're afraid of. Muscles weaken further, balance reactions slow down even more, and confidence erodes along with capability, creating exactly the fragile state that leads to the fall they were trying to prevent in the first place. The correction is to stay moving in controlled, safe ways, like the exercises I've just described, rather than retreating from movement altogether. The second mistake is relying entirely on furniture and walls for support during daily movement. People hold onto counters, walls, and furniture throughout the day because it feels responsible, almost like a form of built-in insurance. But constantly having that support means your balance system never has to do its actual job, and it becomes weaker from disuse, the same way any unused muscle would. I've seen patients who could walk confidently through a hallway lined with furniture to hold, but who felt suddenly unsteady the moment they stepped into an open room with nothing nearby. That's not a coincidence. It's a balance system that has simply forgotten how to work without a safety net. The correction is to practice brief, safe moments without that support, like the single-leg clock reach near a countertop you could catch if needed, gradually reducing your reliance on it over time. The third mistake is wearing thick, overly cushioned shoes, both indoors and outdoors, believing more cushioning always means more protection. In reality, excessive cushioning dulls the sensory feedback from your feet, exactly the feedback your aging nervous system needs more of, not less. Shoe companies market cushioning as comfort, and it is genuinely more comfortable in the short term, but comfort and safety aren't always the same thing when it comes to your balance system. The correction is to choose a firmer, thinner-soled shoe with good tread for daily wear, reserving heavily cushioned shoes only for situations where impact protection genuinely matters, such as long walks on hard pavement. Let me tell you about another patient, a man named Walter, 71 years old. Walter was nothing like Eleanor. He didn't come in worried, he came in because his son insisted, and he sat down and said flatly, "Doc, I've been walking just fine for 71 years. I don't need exercises to walk." He was skeptical, a little irritated even, convinced this appointment was unnecessary, and that his son was overreacting to nothing more than the ordinary aches of getting older. Walter's balance testing told a different story than his confidence did. His single-leg stance time was under 3 seconds on each side, and he swayed noticeably even during simple standing tests with his eyes closed, the kind of result that often surprises even skeptical patients once they see it measured rather than just felt. I explained the clock reach exercise and the footwear change, and Walter, still skeptical, agreed to try it for 1 month, mostly to satisfy his son rather than out of any real belief it would help. 6 weeks later, his single-leg stance time had more than tripled. He also mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that he'd stopped feeling that occasional wobble when turning quickly in the kitchen, something he'd never even brought up as a concern because he'd simply accepted it as part of getting older. Walter looked at his own results and said, "I'll be honest, I didn't think 90 seconds a day could do anything. I was wrong." Sometimes the biggest shift comes from the smallest, most consistent habit, even when someone walks in completely unconvinced it will work. Here's the concrete plan you can start tomorrow. 5 specific steps. Step 1. Tomorrow morning, before you get dressed, do the single-leg clock reach near a sturdy countertop. 30 seconds per leg, 90 seconds total. Set a reminder on your phone if that helps you remember. Step 2. Today, go through your closet and set aside your thickest, most cushioned slippers. Replace them with a thin-soled, firm-bottomed shoe or slipper for use around the house, or go barefoot on safe, dry flooring when appropriate. Step 3. Starting with your very next time sitting down, practice standing up without using your hands or with only fingertip support if needed, and gradually reduce that support over the coming weeks. Step 4. This week, add a 10-minute walk on a slightly varied, safe surface, grass, a gravel path, or a thick rug indoors, always somewhere familiar with support nearby if needed. Step 5. At your next appointment, ask your doctor by name to review every medication you're currently taking specifically for its effect on dizziness or balance. Ask specifically, "Can we go through my medication list together and flag anything that might be affecting my balance or causing dizziness?" This is a conversation many patients never think to have, and it can reveal issues that no amount of exercise alone will fix. Now, an important word about medication. Certain medications commonly prescribed to adults over 70, including some blood pressure medications, sedatives, certain antidepressants, and medications for sleep, can affect balance, blood pressure regulation upon standing, or reaction time, and may increase fall risk independent of anything we've discussed today. This is worth taking seriously, because I've seen patients diligently practice every balance exercise imaginable, while an unaddressed medication side effect quietly undermined all of that progress. Please do not stop or adjust any medication on your own based on this video, no matter how confident you feel about your improving balance. Always tell your doctor about any new exercise routine or supplement you begin, so they have the full picture of your health. These strategies are designed to work alongside your medical care, never as a replacement for it, and your doctor may want to monitor your blood pressure or adjust timing of certain medications as your balance and mobility improve, particularly if you've noticed dizziness upon standing quickly. Falling is not your enemy. It never was. What was truly working against you all along was never your age. It was quiet habits nobody ever explained the reasoning behind. The cushioned slippers, the constant hand on the wall, the retreat from movement out of fear rather than confidence, the missing knowledge that your feet themselves needed daily practice, not just your legs. These are small, ordinary choices that nobody warns you about, made with good intentions, that quietly compound over years into exactly the fragility they were meant to prevent. I think often about what Eleanor said to me at her final follow-up, standing steadily in my office without a hand anywhere near the wall. She said, "I thought I was just getting old. Turns out my feet had just stopped talking to my brain, and nobody ever told me you could teach them to talk again." That is exactly what I want for you. That the right information gives you back control over something that has felt like it was slipping away, one careful step at a time. This video is for informational and educational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for personalized medical advice. Please always consult your personal doctor before beginning any new exercise routine, especially if you have a history of falls, dizziness, or any existing health condition. If this video helped you feel steadier about your own balance, give it a like. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And please, share this with the one person you know who has become afraid to walk the way they used to, or who has already had a fall. They need to see this today, not next month. Tell me in the comments, were you surprised that footwear could affect your balance this much? I read every single one. And if you want to protect yourself even further, my next video is one you cannot miss. One simple change to how you walk that could save your life after 70. It might change the way you think about every single step you take. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss it. This is Dr. Harold Simmons, reminding you that your body has been trying to tell you something with every wobble and every close call, and now you finally know how to listen. See you in the next one.